Okay, so I was supposed to drop this video last night, but it definitely took a lot of praying and making sure that I was going to articulate and put everything that the Holy Spirit wants me to put and say on this. So this video might be kind of long. Uh, so I do apologize, but definitely, uh, definitely has a lot of, uh, meat on the bone. You know, it's definitely for, ears to hear, eyes to see, because this was a I'm not it was a very emotional dream for me, uh, a very joyful dream too as well, but it was definitely emotional. Um, just even like listening back to my recording from it, just hearing my voice and just going over the dream and just hearing how the Lord is crazy. But hope everybody's doing awesome. Hope everybody's having a great day. Today is July 20th, 2023. I had this dream on the 19th of 2023, but God was very adamant. He was like, "Hey, you need to put this out. It needs to get done. I'll guide you." So bear with me. I definitely appreciate anybody that's listening. Whenever you do listen to it, but it's a pretty cool dream, a very emotional dream. Uh, Definitely, yeah. So, like anything, take everything I say to the Lord. Pray on it. Your relationship is the utmost importance with Him. There's nothing more important than your relationship with Jesus Christ. If you haven't been saved, get baptized in the Holy Spirit, also as well. Let's see. Let me think. What else I was gonna say? So just letting you know, this is not financial advice. I'm just giving you my experiences too as well. That the Lord comes with me. Everybody's responsible for their own self. Take it to the Lord, like I say. But here we go. So in the dream, I'm at my house, at my parents' house. My mom is there. My sister Ashley's there. And my daughter's there with me. Okay, so it's just us in the house. My father's not there. My other sister's not there. And as I'm in our house, like, excuse me, our house is like in a raised position, which is crazy because it is on a hill, but it's not like super high. But in this position, for some reason, our house was like, definitely a lot higher than it normally is. And I can see across the landscape. And as I'm in looking out the window, I hear it's like over an intercom, and you hear the speaker start speaking, "Jesus is coming, Jesus is coming," and I'm like, okay, Jesus is coming. And so I'm like, and then if there's like a fear, everybody's like, afraid. There's a fear, like, the Lord is coming, but it's not like, I don't want to say you're terrified of Him, but it's also like, make sure you get yourself ready. So naturally, I dropped to my knees and I started praying for my sins and asking for forgiveness, and, you know, asking the Lord to have mercy and grace over me. And I'm on my knees, I'm praying. I have my head bowed. And I would look up occasionally, and I could look out the window, and you literally see Jesus coming down from the clouds. Like, you could see it from a distance. He's coming from the clouds. It is, descending down on clouds, all glory. And as he's descending down, the intercom is still speaking. Jesus is coming. Jesus is coming. Jesus is coming. And it's like, get ready. Jesus is coming. And I tell my mom, like, hey, this is what the intercom is saying. She's like, okay, well, you need to pray. I was like, Mom, you need to pray too, right? And I tell my sister, and I tell my daughter, like, you got to pray, okay? So we're praying, you know, my kid's right next to me. She's praying. I'm praying. I don't really see my mom, at all, but I told her that she needed to pray. And as Jesus is coming down, you know, as he's descending from the clouds, all of a sudden you hear him say, he wants everybody to go to this white building. And what's crazy is everybody doesn't hear him. Like not everybody's hearing Jesus is coming. Like it's like weird. It's like a knowing, but everybody couldn't hear that Jesus is coming. But they also couldn't hear him telling them go to the white building. Like he was giving instructions. He was like go to the white building. And so I get up, I grab my daughter. I don't really see my mom or anything like that, but or my sister. And as me and my kid are going, we head to the white building, and I don't even know how I knew where this white building was, but I just knew where it was. And as we go to this white building, it's huge. Like it's all white, all brick. It's massive. Like it almost looks like my school from what I had before, but it wasn't my school. Uh, like almost like it was huge, okay, and it was beautiful on the inside. Like it was like that. It was like strong white brick, almost like a castle, but it wasn't, and it was like you could tell it was fortified. Like you can drop 85 nuclear bombs on it and nothing was touching it. Like that's how fortified it was. Like nothing was getting past it. And Jesus was saying, go to the white building. And I'm like looking around as I'm going, and there's not a lot of people going. But as I get there to the white building, all of a sudden, like there's like 3 or 4 figures, and I couldn't make them out. So I couldn't make these folks out and everything. And, you know, like I said, my mom and my sister's not there, but I know my kid's with me. And uh, I go, as I'm going to the white building and everything, I go, I guess like I'm sitting at the cafeteria table, and I'm still praying, like I'm still praying, like, like cover me with the armor of God, you know, cover my family, my friends. I'm praying, and at this moment I can't see Ari, but I know she's there with me. And as I am praying, all of a sudden you see Jesus come into the building. And what's crazy is it's awesome that he's there, but it's like when he comes, he's like, I'm one of the guys. Like the way he sits down, and he's huge. And I'm still praying. Like I'm still asking for forgiveness, and he comes next to me and just sits down, and he's sitting there, and he's like huge, like he's glowing, he's emitting this like white light, but it's not bright blinding white light. It's enough for me to see him, but I couldn't see his face. The only thing I could see in the dream was his legs, his feet, his hands, all the way kind of towards his shoulder, but it was like kind of like a cut off where it wouldn't let me see his face. But I'd probably be blind if I saw his face in the dream. I'd probably wake up blind. um, you know so God was probably, he was sparing me, I guess. But as I'm sitting there, he's looking at me. I could feel he's looking at me, he's talking to me, and he's like, and he says my name. He's like, Christopher. Now look, I don't know about y'all, but of course Jesus can, say the government name or anything. Yeah, I don't even know what my heavenly name is, but he says Christopher. Like And I'm like, oh man, he said my name. And when somebody as a significant other or somebody that's close to you, they say your name, you like automatically pay attention, like your head, like, oh, you just called my full government name, like what's going on? And he just says it, and he's like, hey, you know, like what's going on? And I was like, Lord, please forgive me, like, I'm sorry, like, I'm sorry for coming against you, like I'm begging for forgiveness, and mercy. And like you could feel him smile, and he goes, I already have. And I was like taken back by it. I was like even now as I'm recording this again, like I'm trying not to get emotional because, gosh. So, 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 man. So as he he says that, I'm taken back in the dream, and I'm like, Lord, like your voice, it's not what I expected. It sounds like spring water, trickling down, like coming down, but like a cloud. And you could tell he just smiles. I'm like, it's so gentle. It's not what I was expecting. And then he like his smile is, I can't explain to you. It's like being in a pool, cold water, or like a beach, being in a pool, and then going and laying on, the floor, or a seat or something like that, and then the sun comes out, and you just feel those sun rays just like heat your body up, and it's just like you feel that warm sensation, and you just like, oh, that feels good. Like it was a trillion times that. I can't even amplify like to infinity and beyond, like Buzz Lightyear. But it felt incredible. And he says, hey, he puts his hand on me, and I'm at his feet, because I'm praying. Like I bowed, I bowed to him. I was like, I laid down next to his feet. Like he's just sitting there, just chilling like a dude, like what up, type of thing. And he puts his whole hand, he just puts his hand on me, and he says, it's okay. And I could tell you, like when I was recording this, like I was just crying. Like it was just even now, like I'm emotional about it, but I'm trying to stay with composure. But his voice was so warm and so gentle, and he just says, it's okay. He lays his hands on me, and it's just, I can't even describe it. I can't even describe it. But he goes and he says, but hey, and I'm like, he like, I lift my head up, and he's like, I need you to get in line. And I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, like, I'm like, all right. And you know how, like, when you talk to somebody, you automatically say why, or like what's going on, or something. I didn't even say that. I was just like, okay. He's like, I need you to get in line, and he points to the line he wants me to go to. So when I look at all the other lines, so I see what he's saying, but when I look at all the other lines, there's lines. And when I tell you, there's millions of people there, there's a couple million, like there's a couple million. And I'm like looking at the lines, I'm like, oh man, I'm about to get in this line. And he's like, no, he's like, I need you to get in this line. And he literally, like, I feel his whole hand, like, it's like he's still sitting there. And he's like, I need you to get in line. And I'm like, okay, Lord. And his hand literally starts pushing me towards this short line, and starts pushing me ahead of the short line. And there's a couple people there. Like he pushes me to where, like, there's this group, and he wants me to stay at this group. He's like, I need you to get in line for the wealth transfer. And I'm like, the wealth transfer? He's like, yeah. He's like, get in line for the wealth transfer. I want you right here. So he pushes me, and like the group of people that I'm with, they're like, I can't make out their faces, but I know they're important people. I don't know who they are though. And he goes, I want you in this line right here. And this was the shortest line. There was maybe, I don't know, maybe 100 people in this line compared to the other line, but he moved us ahead of the shortest line of the 100, and he's like, get in line for the wealth transfer, and he's still sitting back. And what's crazy is that as he's saying this, there's still people in line waiting, for these lines are all for the wealth transfer. So there's a couple million people here in line for the wealth transfer. Okay, so they're all in line. So wherever their position is, and I really do feel like in my spirit, like the Holy Spirit is saying this. Whoever's listening to this, He's putting you from last to first. Whoever, of course, go pray about it, talk to the Lord about it. But he's because we all have our responsibility for the people that we are, speaking to, and we have accountability. And whoever is in, my group that I talk to, and whoever listens to me at this point in time, he's letting you know, like, you're moving from last to first, like. And there's more to this, which I'll get to in a second, but just recapping real quick, He has forgiven you. He loves you so much. He really is so gentle, so kind, so loving. This abundance of love in like, there's no measure to it. Whatever's on your heart, whatever's ailing you, whatever pain, whatever sadness, whatever hurt, whatever unforgiveness for yourself and for other people, whatever sin that you may commit, if you just say, hey, submit yourself and humble yourself before the Lord and ask for forgiveness, He does it. And when I said, Lord, forgive me, He's like, I already have. Like, it wasn't even like a whim. Like, He wasn't even thinking about it. He's like, it's already done. Like, why are you still going on about it? It's done. Like, I'm in the midst of, I didn't even know that I was going into the wealth transfer line, excuse me. And He was already looking past that, of like all my my sins, and trying to put me into the line of blessings, like already trying to move me up. He's like, here, go. Like, He's like, yes, I understand where you're at and what you're thinking about, but I love you. I've already forgiven you. Get your tail over here to this wealth transfer line so we can get things cracking. Let's go. So whatever, anybody that's listening to this, Jesus Christ loves you so much, so much, so much. Okay, give it to Him, let it go. And I think this is one of the things He's been trying to tell me, because you got to let all that stuff go. We all fall short. Okay, so getting on to it now. So Jesus is still kind of chilling over there, and I'm in a line. I'm still looking back at Him like, man, He just talked to me. Like, whoa, like, that's crazy. But it was like, bam, bam, bam. He talked to me. I prayed, and it was like, boom, suddenly. Like, it was real swift. Like, He's like, no, He's like, okay, that's done. Now get over here and get into this line. He's like, we've had our talk. He didn't dwell on it. It reminded me when He told Samuel not to dwell on Saul, that He was uplifting David. He had already chosen somebody. Like, that's what it reminded me of. He's like, why are you still dawdling on this when I'm on to the new thing, right? Like, what's going on with you? Like, come on, let's go, chop chop, go get my anointed. So I'm in line, and the girl is talking to me. She has like short hair, and I can't really tell who she is, but I can tell that it's Amy. And it's this girl, and Amy, I worked with at this place called Folks Southern Kitchen, a long time ago. And me and Amy were always cool. Like, she was hilarious. Like, I think she's married and has kids now, wherever the last time I heard from her, which was like years ago. But it's crazy that Amy's in this, this dream, and she's in line with me. And she's like, and she's a bank teller. She's one of the people that helps with finances. I don't know if she's a financial advisor or what her position is, but I know she helped when I was at Wells Fargo. When I went to Wells Fargo to get my money out the bank, and I saw her there, and I'm like, okay, Wells Fargo, that's kind of weird, like that connection because she works there, and especially with what's going on with the banks and stuff like that right now, right? So she helps me, and she's like, here, you got to sign this contract to get the wealth transfer. You got to sign your name on it, because it's yours. You're claiming it. So she shows me, signs the papers and everything, the contract that's like in front of the line, and the person that's there at the gate, who's keeping it, like he looks at the paperwork. He or she, I can't remember who it was, looks at the paperwork. I couldn't really see their face. They're making sure everything is good, and they pretty much are like going over the paperwork, and it's like a bam 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 thing. So and then it's my turn, and she basically makes sure what Amy makes sure that I'm doing everything correctly and stuff like that, and uh, she oversees my paperwork, but I'm also like, I follow her instructions and stuff like that after reading over everything. But it was like a boom boom boom, like bam, like. And it's funny because as soon as I started signing it, my name on it and put the date and all the stuff like that and everything, um, like this like euphoric like feeling. I'm like, oh man, this is like really happening. Like it was like, this is really happening. Like I'm here getting this. Like this is taking place. And as I'm signing it, all of a sudden I see a banquet, and the banquet's like immediately as I'm signing the paper, I see the banquet, and it's just like the best looking chicken I've ever seen. You know, sorry for all you vegans out there, or who people don't like chicken or whatever, but like when I tell you, like, this is like some, Guy Fieri, Rachel Ray, Bobby Flay, Alex, like type cuisines. Like this is just like, and I'm like, what is going on? And it's so good as I'm signing the contract that I grabbed one of the pieces of chicken because I was so, like, I was hungry. I was like, bam, and I bit into the chicken. It was like one of them Fred Flintstone types of chickens. And I'm like, wow, this is good. And I go through, and Amy's like, here's, I made a plate for you. She's like, but you can make your plate too as well. So I start, piling on my buffet and stuff like that because I was just like, I'm just so relieved, to have this buffet. And there's people coming behind me, and the group that was with me, they're with me too as well, and they're helping. Like, hey, look at this part of the buffet. Did you see this? Did you miss this? And I'm just like, and I go back and grab the piece of chicken that I ate too as well that started off, because I was just like, man, that piece of chicken was, that was, hey, let's go. And you can see the people that are coming through the lines, the other millions of the other lines that was there, they're coming through and going through and get their buffet and stuff like that. And everybody's just like all cheerful and like laughing and stuff like that. And when I look back, Jesus is still directing everybody. He's still talking to everybody. He's telling people to get in line for the wealth transfer, and he's directing everybody. He's moving everybody and stuff like that. And what I noticed about the baked chicken that I got was that the chefs were frying the chicken, and it was coming out baked. So basically, you know, there was no it's because when you bake chicken it takes longer, but when you fry it it's quicker. So it was like it was being done quickly, but it was coming out baked and healthy, like it was good for you, right? Catch that if you got spiritual ears, right? So as that's going on, uh, you know, it blew my mind because as the lines that I had looked at before, like they were crazy long, and because they were crazy long, I thought I was going to be there for like years, like months to years, and for Jesus just to move me, you know, to the front like that, that was crazy to me. Which means like the appointed time is coming up. And the buffet was, basically the wealth transfer. You know, that's health, forgiveness, not just financial, as well, but it was everything. So then, I go over to the Lord, with all my stuff, but I also have a book, and I come over to Jesus. I'm like, hey, and as I'm writing in this book, I'm like, Lord, show me a sign, like show me what you want me to do with this wealth transfer, like show me what you want to do. And in the book, I it's funny because the song "Let It Go" started playing, and I'm drawing a line. I couldn't see what I drew: a circle, a line, a circle, a line, and a circle. The first person that was on the circle that I drew was Anna from Frozen, and then I couldn't see who the other person was, and then the other person was Elsa that I drew, and I'm asking the Lord what He wants me to do, and He says, he smiles. He's like, I've given you wisdom and discernment. He's like, you'll know what to do, but just talk to me. And he's smiling during the whole, the conversation. And as I am like just in awe of him, like I didn't want to go. I didn't want to leave, but I was like, okay, Lord. He's like, I need you to go outside the building because there are people waiting on you. There's people waiting on you. Um, and on a side note, don't forget to bring Jesus his buffet plate. Bring him a plate. And you know what that means spiritually. Make sure you bring Jesus Christ his plate. Do what you're supposed to do. Okay. So, anyways, now, but you know how folks are, the parents are when you don't bring them a plate. Like, you didn't bring me none? Come on now. All right. So next thing you know, I'm outside. And as I'm outside, I see this girl driving by. She's like almost like in a winter coat type of thing. And, like a cloak, like she's covered. And she's in this parade, like this huge parade that's going on. Like it's like a huge celebration of what just happened. Like there's so many people, and these are all the people that are that were in the building. So people are leaving the building, but they're all celebrating. And you know, like I'm reflecting on what God, was telling me. And as I'm doing this, uh, I'm checking out what the sites are. And as people are like yelling and jumping and like just celebrating, I mean, it's definitely a time to celebrate. And people are like trying to get my attention. There's people blowing up my phone. There's people wanting me to take pictures of where I'm at. Uh, like of like what's going on. Like I'm like my feed on my phone. Like I don't know what social side I was on, but like it's like blowing up, and people want me to take pictures. And when I start taking pictures, uh, the pictures are like holograms and like some Tony Stark Iron Man type stuff. And I'm like, oh man, this is crazy, And then I started thinking about my friend Jonathan, who worked at Folks too, and I wonder if he was fishing as well, because he was on the other side of the parking lot. And it's crazy how you know how I was just like being in demand. People were asking for me and calling my phone and just blowing my phone up and stuff like that. So I decided, I'm like, well, I need to go grab my fishing gear. So I grab my fishing gear and I go sit on the porch. This porch that's like on the parking lot of where the big white building is. And as I'm sitting there on the white building, I mean the porch, the wooden porch, there's people walking around, and I was playing a game on my phone, waiting for the parade to get finished, and I was playing a Christmas game, and this dude wanted to, um, it's called people kids sometimes, but this dude was like, hey, that's a great game. I remember I used to play that. Can I play it? I was like, no, I'm playing it. Because as I was playing the Christmas game, I was getting gifts. And he's like, well, I want to do it too. And I was like, no, this is just for me. So he's just there watching it. Other people are watching too, but they're like paying attention to like what I'm doing. And as that's going on, like I'm waiting for it to get, nighttime. And when I go to my car, Amy's there, and she's like, "I gotta go use the bathroom." And she's like, "But I don't know where it's at." I'm like, "I'm pretty sure that it's over there." And I see Kevin Sorbo, and I'm like, "Kevin," I was like, "Hey, can you help Amy go to the restroom? Can you tell her where it's at, director?" He's like, "Yeah." So she opens up the passenger door, jumps out. It's nighttime, and she leaves the door open. I'm like, "You can't leave the door open." So I jump out and shut the door real quick. So she goes to the restroom, comes back uh, with Kevin Sorbo. I'm like, did you, take care of business? She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, don't make sure you don't leave the door open. You don't want to do that. And she's like, okay. Like, yeah, I will do that again. Now, as this is taking place, as it's nighttime, uh, all of a sudden, like, there's like this destruction on like the opposite side, like not where the white building is, but on the other side. And there's people destroying and trying to rob people that are coming out of the building and stuff like that. And they're trying to set people up and frame them. They try to frame me, like, what were you doing? And Idris and Channing Tatum both showed up and they're police, and they're like, where's the key at? We know you're involved. Where's your key at? Where's your key at? And I was like, I'm not involved. I wasn't involved in any of that stuff, nor was I taking place. I was over here. You're not going to get me for something that I didn't do. And they were really insistent about, trying to get my key. And they were the police, and the robbers are right there, like watching to see what's going to happen, because they're there and they're trying to see if what they did was enough to get me set up and stuff like that. And I ended up getting out of there, and I was like covered somehow, like the Lord covered me. And I ended up going over to an old friend's house, which I'm not going to mention his name, but um, he was with this girl, and I can't remember her name. Oh, I can't remember her name, but I recognized her face. And she was friends with this girl named Alexis when we worked at Folks. And what's crazy was he was running game, and I could tell something had happened between them. And I told him, I was like, does uh, does your wife know? And you could tell like he didn't care. And it was like he was trying to throw it in my face. And I was like, and I remember looking at her, and I remember thinking how beautiful she was. And I was like, I got to get out of here. I don't want no part of this or what this situation is and stuff like that. And, and I end up, leaving because, he was trying to flaunt it in my face and, get me involved. And I didn't want to be involved. So I left. So I'm just gonna bring up like a few points, and you guys can go back and look at some of the screenshots that I took and everything, and take it to the Lord. But uh, one, once this transfer happens, and it's going to happen, take everything to the Lord immediately afterwards. Don't, because when I left that line, I immediately walked to Jesus, and I was like, hey, what's up, Lord? Like, what's the game plan? Because he's already given you instructions. That's why he said, you got wisdom and discernment. Use it. But still talk to me. Talk to him through the process of everything you're doing. Check with him. Don't be like Joshua and make an agreement, and then these people deceive you. And now you look like the fool because you didn't come to God first, right? The other thing was, when I was at, everybody was celebrating. Like, it was like it was a parade. It was a day of celebration. It was going through. But eventually the parade ended and it came to nighttime. So, you're going to have the day of celebration and stuff like that, but you still got to keep your wits about you, because even though the day of celebration was coming, the enemy was still hiding in the night, waiting for their moment to attack. And even while I was in the process of playing my game that on the phone, getting the Christmas game, with Christmas in July. But I think this is going to be a matter of, as this wealth transfer takes place, it's going to be over a period of time, and it's going to be Christmas for everybody as they're getting their gifts and getting the things that the Lord is giving them. And, you're going to get yours too, as well as you do what you're supposed to do. Kings 5 and Kings 6 talks about the preparation Solomon takes to build the temple, and then when he goes through the process of building the temple. Build the temple first, and then you can build what God wants you to do. Build what the Lord wants you to build first before you start making any quick decisions and stuff. Take everything to the Lord. If he says you can buy a car, buy a car. If he says you can buy a house, buy the house. But this is for the kingdom. When I went to the Lord, he said there was people waiting for me outside of the transfer, that building. That building was for that moment of what was going on, that the Lord had already set up. The building was already set up for everything to take place. The Lord had already gone before us and set the capacity, set the parameters, set everything up for it to go smooth, for the transfer to take place. And it took place, and there was nothing stopping it from happening. He had already sealed it. Nothing could get through. Nothing was stopping it. Nothing was coming against it. He was there in the building, in itself, to direct and delegate. So the enemy couldn't even set foot in the fortress, couldn't even set foot around the parameters. They couldn't come around until he left. And even while he left, he was still watching over the situation. Hence, when Idris and Channing tried to come at me, I was still covered and I was still able to get away. But if you look at the meaning of their names, of young wolf, and it also said, church official with Channing's name, you got to be careful of people that are in the church as well, that are going to come falsely, looking all beautiful and handsome and stuff like that. They're going to try to deceive you. And his name is Young Wolf, like wolf in sheep's clothing. You have to be careful. And Idris' name is Studious. There's going to be people that are very intelligent, very smart, that are going to come at you and try to manipulate you and try to take you out and get your keys, get your wealth, get the things that the Lord is giving you. You have to be protective, and you have to be able to stand firm and say, no, I have no part of that. And you have to be where you're not a part of that. You can't be getting included or involved in situations that's going to be detrimental. And the robbers were right there setting up distractions and, trying to cause chaos and trying to get to you as well. So you have to be careful of that. And when I told Amy to keep that door shut, it's so people couldn't jump in and take what was hers. Even though I was already in the car, she was leaving access open while she was getting distracted with a immediate need. Now, granted, she had rest, she got to take care of her business, and she had a destiny helper, like Kevin Sorbo. He happened to be there, somebody that I knew. And that's the other thing. God's going to put you in position of knowing people that are on different stages of fame or influence or power. You're also going to be in those type of positions where he's opening those doors for you. But you also got to make sure you don't give people access to come and take what's yours and what's the Lord's. I mean, you can't take anything from God's, but he's giving you the permission to look over what he's giving you. The talents, right? You want to be the one sowing in the talents like you're supposed to. Whether you get 5, 3, 2, 1, whatever, right? And even when I was playing that Christmas game, I know I'm jumping all over the place, but I don't want to make this too long. Even while I was playing that video game, people were trying to come and get what I already had, even though they were already there at the wealth transfer. Like these people were already there and they were acting a fool. They were being greedy. They were letting stuff get to their head and they were still watching what I was going to do. Now, it can be innocent, but you still got to protect what's yours because even though they may not mean anything by it, or they might, you still have to protect what the Lord has given you. You have to always be alert, be cautious, use your discernment, use your wisdom because they might squander stuff that they had before and now they want yours. So you have to pay attention to that type of thing too as well. And the thing too is, there's robberies and all this stuff was happening, and Jesus was just in the building, and they were still acting a fool. Like there's people, even though they know God was there and that God is still here, like even if they get the transfer, they're not going to act right. They're going to lose sight of the Lord. There are people in this transfer that are going to lose sight of the Lord. Don't be one of those people. Do not be one of those people. Like I said, this is not financial advice or anything like that. I'm just telling you what the Lord has put on me. This is my journey and the things that are going on, but you have to pay attention. And then don't put yourself, even with old friends, old people that you know, family members, friends, coworkers, whatever the case may be, old acquaintances, don't put yourself in a situation that can cause danger to you, yourself, your family, to anything that the Lord has given you. Take yourself out of those situations. Don't bring yourself into that situation. I went to a situation where I was visiting an old friend, hadn't talked to him in a long period of time. And, we had a thing where, he cheated on his wife and, all kinds of other stuff like that. This whole thing was more of, this dream was letting everybody know that it's incoming and God is in the building. There are people that are not going to hear it, are not going to hear his voice. And even though he's there in the building, they're not going to seek him. And he's in the building. Like the Lord was letting everybody know that he's in the building and people are still not going to hear him. But they're still going to get it because he's going to bless them. But he's going to want to see what they're going to do. And there's people outside that building waiting for us to do what we're supposed to do for the kingdom. This is for the kingdom. And basically what God wanted to tell you, like, it's here. Like, he is here, ground zero. His sheep hear his voice. The Lord is saying he is here. The intercom said he's coming. He's here at ground zero. Get ready. Do not be the foolish man who built his house up on the sand. Be ready like David. Stay alert. There are a bunch of Saul's men creeping around. Okay? Be like Joseph. Be forgiving, be loving, but always, always seek the Lord. Be like Esther for such a time as this. Don't look at the matters of the heart. Don't look at the physical like Samuel. Be like the Lord. It's time, y'all. We're on ground zero. Something's about to take place. So I'm praying for y'all. Hope everything's awesome. Definitely hit the subscribe button. Please support if you can. I apologize for this being so long, but there's so much more that I could have said, but videos are already getting out there. But hopefully you've listened to all the way to the end. Stay blessed, stay in the Lord, stay under his wings. Always pray, stay close to the Lord. All right. Peace out, y'all.